Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, The Savvy Agent. I am so excited to have you here today as we dive into one of my favorite topics, resilience. Parenting is a journey full of ups and downs, much like the waves here on Fort Myers Beach. And just like the ocean, life brings challenges that our children must learn to face. Today, we'll talk about how we, as parents, can help cultivate resilience in our kids. Not only through life's trials, but also through faith. Resilience. Sometimes I call it stick-to-itiveness with my kids. Sometimes you have to stick with things before they come to fruition. Stick-to-itiveness. You must be determined and persistent in moving forward with your life, your goals, and the plans that God has laid before you. So resilience is one of the greatest gifts we can instill in our children. It's not just about being tough or bouncing back after failure. It's about having the faith to get up again and again and again, trusting in God's plan and knowing that each challenge serves a purpose in shaping their character. How many times have you had to get up over and over again? You know, one of the things in our society right now is, and I see this as a middle school teacher, as a middle school counselor, and as an adult that has had several children and watched them through all stages of their life, moving into young adulthood and then on into adulthood. And sometimes learning means you have to fail. Actually, a lot of times learning means you have to fail, because you know what? If you're failing, then you're trying. As you're trying, you're learning. As you're learning, you master. And you master the topic. You master the concept. So resilience is built by failing and by coming up against obstacles and continuing to persevere and be determined to go through them. But also, it's part of learning. It's how we gain more knowledge and wisdom. Through that kind of resilience and perseverance, moving through our challenges, barriers, and obstacles. And you know what? Barriers and obstacles, all they are is just like on the track field, it's just like a hurdle. You can go over it, you can go around it, you can go under it. If you go through it, you're knocking it down. Resilience. So how do we continue to move that and bring that into our children's lives and build that? Let's think about this in context of Proverbs 3:5-6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." This verse reminds us that resilience is rooted in faith. It's teaching our children that even when they don't understand why something happens, they can trust that God is guiding them through. I've leaned on this verse countless times while raising my children, my 6 children. Every time they faced a setback, a disappointment, or even a crisis, I've reminded them of this promise, that God will always direct their steps, especially when they trust him completely. You know, God directs your steps too as a parent. All you have to do is trust and have faith in him, and always look to his guidance in your parenting and what you are teaching your children. You know, raising 6 children has been one of the most challenging, but also most rewarding journeys of my life. I've seen firsthand how important it is for children to learn resilience from a young age. Let me share with you. There was a time when one of my children faced a particularly hard time in school. They were struggling with their grades and feeling overwhelmed with the pressure. You know, things changed from my older children to my younger children because we had curriculum changes, and this presented academic challenges. I remember sitting down with one of them and one evening, and instead of offering a quick solution, we prayed together. I reminded them of another Bible verse that has always resonated with me. Ephesians 6:10. Finally, be strong in the Lord and his mighty power. I told them that true strength doesn't come from getting everything right all the time, but from turning to God when things feel tough. That night, they went to bed with a sense of peace, knowing that God's strength would carry them through. And do you know, and this was a time in middle school. And middle school are challenging years, grades 6 through 8. Things, you're growing and changing. Your friends are growing and changing. Emotions are changing. You're growing more reasonably in your mind to be able to reason better. Making more connections to real life from the academic world. And so not only was this a prayer that I prayed with my children with this child at night, but also in the morning we prayed before school, before they got on the bus. Because you know that frustration of not being able to perform at a level of perhaps what other students do is very challenging. You know, it starts attacking the self-esteem and self-worth, and that was one thing in building resilience, was protecting that self-esteem and self-worth. And that was focusing on the aspects and areas of my child's life that they could do very well. And holding dear to that and showing the importance of staying true to that gift as well. It was in moments like these that I realized something. Resilience is not something that happens overnight. It's built slowly over time through small daily challenges. It's about teaching our kids to trust God in every situation. And whether it's a difficult test at school, a friendship issue, or navigating the uncertainties of growing up. And we as parents can guide them by modeling what it looks like to lean on faith during tough times. You know, take that into consideration of your own parenting style. You know, our children, they are imitators of us. Sometimes in order to be a better parent, we have to be a better version of ourselves, which means you have to start doing some self-reflection as to what motivates your parenting. What motivates you to respond a certain way to your children? As to one child over another? Where do those behaviors come from? Self-examination. It's extremely important in helping to build character in our children, to understand where our motivations are and why we do the things that we do, so therefore we can better understand our children and help them navigate into stronger, better character and more resilience. So how do we practically, from a practical perspective, cultivate resilience in our children? Well, first we have to let them experience failure. Ooh, and that's a tough one. I know that sounds counterintuitive. No parents want to see their child fail. But when we shield our kids from every challenge, we rob them of the opportunity to grow stronger. I talk about this more in depth in Parenting with Purpose, where I emphasize that failure isn't something to fear, it's something to embrace. I tell you, my parents fixed everything to the point of problem solving. My problem solving skills were lacking. I was very sad about that when I realized that my parents, because, you know, they came from a third world country, they built a business and a successful life for me and my brother. And the amazing thing about all of that is the resources that were the gain. You know, second, we must be there to guide them through the tough moments, our children through the tough moments. When our children face difficulties, they need to know they're not alone. They need to know that we are there to support them, and more importantly, that God is with them, guiding them through every storm. And now that is one thing, even though my parenting might have lacked in some certain areas, and you know what? You're not going to be the perfect parent. Trying and stay close to God and help pray to the good Lord for us to continue to point our children's eyes to Him, to cultivate a one-to-one relationship with Him, so that when they move into their young adulthood and their independence, they have a guiding force and somewhere to look for answers and guidance. Let me share with you 4 key points from Parenting with Purpose that can help you build resilience in your children. Encourage your children to trust in God's plan. Just like Proverbs 3:5-6 says, teach them to trust that God's guidance is greater than their own understanding. 2, allow space for failure. Let them stumble, but always be there to help them get back up and reflect on what they've learned. 3, model resilience in your own life. Our children learn by watching us. They see us face challenges with grace and faith. They'll be inspired to do the same. Incorporate faith in everyday life. Remind them through prayer, scripture, and daily conversations that God's strength is available to them. Teach them to turn to their faith in times of difficulty. Now, this is one thing that I do model for my children on a daily basis. You know, they watch me in my praise and worship. Again, setting a disciplined routine in the morning with prayer and supplication, praise and worship, and thankfulness throughout the day. Thanking the good Lord for all the blessings in my life. Always graciously grateful. Always graciously grateful. And showing my children how important that is. You know, my children are in their young adulthood. Well, some of them are in their older adulthood too. And one of the youngest ones in his young adulthood learned something new just from the goals that he set forth in his life, and what his friends want and how they are different than his. And he figured that out. You know, he figures that out from the weekend. You know, again, think about what you were doing when you were 19, 20, 21, 22. What kinds of things were you introduced to? What were you doing in your free time? What goals did you have? You know, that is something. My kids all have goals. They all have professional goals. They have life goals for their profession and their careers. And one of the things moving into young adulthood is finding that others do not feel the same way. My one said today, they said, well, this person said that they wanted to do that, but their actions indicated differently. And so we had a teachable moment there. I mean, to have a teachable moment with one of your children in their 20s is just incredible, because we were able to affirm the choices and decisions that we made in raising our children and raising this child, and the direction and the protection that we put naturally into their life. We surrounded our children with specific kind of people that had goals, people that cared about themselves, cared about their education, cared about their future, and cared about others. We surrounded our children with individuals like us and like our children that were willing to make sacrifices to reach career goals, academic goals, life goals. You know, that was modeling. Having that kind of modeling and being intentional about what you allow in your children's life and how you're directing the path is extremely important. Because they are learning from you. They are learning from you. You know, another critical aspect of building resilience is to help your children develop a growth mindset. A growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. And you know what? I'm going to say that a growth mindset is equivalent to an abundant mindset and not a poverty mindset. An abundant mindset that God sufficiently supplies for all our needs and all resources are His. And what we do with those resources is important. So a growth mindset. A growth mindset also teaches us that we must try and we must try new things. And failing is a part of learning. And through that process, we are learning new skills, but also we are gaining resilience because now we're learning how to handle that kind of failure and how we're learning bits and pieces from it to move forward in a new direction in life. Growth mindset, abundant mindset. This means teaching them that their abilities are not fixed. They can always improve, grow, and become better through effort and persistence. Effort and persistence. The Bible supports this idea beautifully. James 1, verses 2 through 4 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." You know, I have another child that says, you know, when challenges or obstacles come up in any given situation, whether it's at work or in finances or resources, that adult child says, "Oh, well, you know what? That's not an obstacle. That's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for you to look at things from a different perspective, to initiate different problem solvings, and to take a new approach. To take a new approach, which creates growth and forward momentum, resilience. This is all part of it. Isn't that exciting? Now, again, this is done over time and repetitive behaviors as a parent, over and over again, enforcing and reinforcing the same technique, the same kind of modeling, the same relationship with the good Lord. And this verse, you know, James 1, 2 through 4, this verse really speaks to the heart of resilience. It's not about avoiding trials, but embracing them as opportunities to grow in faith, strength, and character. Let me tell you, to have a child in their adulthood realize that and repeat that to you, whew, that is huge. When we instill this in our children, we're setting them up for a lifetime of confidence and perseverance. Lifelong learning takes perseverance. Learning new things takes perseverance. Being in business for yourself takes perseverance. It is a diligent pursuit of excellence and growth mindset. So as you think about how to cultivate resilience in your own children, remember that it starts with faith. Encourage them to lean on God, to embrace challenges as opportunities to grow, and to always remember that no matter what life throws at them, they are never alone. If you want to dive deeper into this topic and learn more about raising resilient, confident children through faith, I encourage you to check out my book, Parenting with Purpose. It's filled with practical insights and faith-based wisdom that I've gathered over the years as a mother of 6, as an educator, as a counselor, as a leader. Thank you so much for joining me today. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click on the link below to get your copy of Parenting with Purpose. Together we can raise children who are strong in faith, resilient in character, and ready to take on the world.